I just lost 20% of my newspapers right there. Oh my goodness, I just lost 40% of my newspapers. I lost 60% of my newspapers for one comic strip. Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Goats and a Cartoonist. I am the Cartoonist, of course, and unfortunately what you're looking at there is half of a goat, and it's not the good half. There's the other half right there. All right, and then the other goat is here somewhere. Now, one thing I've talked about before was cartoons that upset people, and I was reminded of a story about one cartoon in particular that I did that not only upset people, it enraged people, and it got me thrown out of several newspapers, actually. What is this? Oh boy, we're starting already. It was just a single panel comic strip. Single panel comic strip. And I might be letting these guys out so I can finish my story here. Hang on for a minute. Cartoon I'm going to mention that I've been trying to talk about was one that I drew in 1997. And it was simply a cartoon that showed a bunch of beavers. And they were sitting around, and they're all wearing hard hats. And most of them are just kind of sitting around drinking coffee and leaning on shovels. There was one little beaver who was madly chewing down a tree. There's another beaver that's just standing there with his coffee cup holding a sign that says "Dam in Progress." And again, like I said, they're all wearing hard hats. And the title was State Employed Beavers. So in other words, you know, state employees have a reputation for just leaning on shovels, drinking coffee, and not getting a lot of work done. Well, the one little beaver that's chewing down the tree, the other beavers are looking at him, and one says, "Wow, look at that guy go." And one of the other beavers says, "Well, he's new." And that was it, State Employed Beavers. That was in fact, I'm sure we're going to show it. If not, that would be kind of a mean tease of me to be talking about all this and not showing the strip. So here it is. So when this comic ran, again, this is 1997, it was almost 30 years ago. I was only in about 5 newspapers at the time: Anchorage, Fairbanks, Juneau, Sitka, and Salem, Oregon. I was the only newspaper outside of Alaska I was in. And I can't even remember how I got picked up in Salem, Oregon, but I was it. And the strip ran. I had thought nothing of it, other than, hey, this is kind of funny, ha ha ha. Well, I get a call from the editor of the Salem newspaper. He says to me his phone has been ringing off the hook with people complaining, state employees complaining, about a comic strip I did and how they wanted me to just be thrown out of the newspaper. And it worked. The editor said he had no choice because of the overwhelming response he had gotten about from angry state employees demanding that I be dealt with and thrown out of their lovely newspaper there. Of course, that's crushing to me. I just lost 20% of my newspapers right there. My answering machine was full of messages from state employees. And I got to remember also, back then it was easy to call people because there's something called a phone book. And state employees in Alaska took the time to look me up, call me, and I got some of the nastiest, most absolutely angry, threatening messages. I remember one guy in particular said if he ever sees me in public, that he was gonna punch me in the face. I can't remember exactly what, but he was gonna hit me somehow. A couple days later, I got a piece of snail mail. And it was just a note from the Juneau editor. She was a new editor. She had just taken over for the previous editor, for the editor that actually put me in the Juneau Empire newspaper. And all it said was, "We won't be needing your strip anymore." And that was it. That was the entire note. And of course, with her signature on it. Oh my goodness, I just lost 40% of my newspapers. I called the Juneau Empire and to speak with her, and I got her on the phone, and she was less than diplomatic, but she just said basically, well, because of all the negative feedback she'd be getting from that one comic strip, that they were going to be throwing me out of the paper. And then she added, as just a little bonus, just a little gift from her to me, she said, I wanted to throw you out of the paper when I first got the job. This is just a great opportunity to do it. I've never forgotten that. And I've never forgotten her. And I won't mention her name here because she's still around and I don't want to, cause her any more grief. I don't want to, some of my more ravenously loyal fans, which I appreciate you. I don't want them looking her up and send her nasty emails, although she, probably deserved it, would deserve it. But I'm not going to say anything. And then I get a call, this is like a day later, from Fairbanks, the Fairbanks newspaper, the Fairbanks Daily News Miner. They threw me out too. I lost 60% of my newspapers for one comic strip that was not supposed to offend anybody. It was just supposed to entertain people, be funny. Well, lo and behold, I have never gotten back into the Salem, Oregon paper. I didn't realize that Oregon was the Beaver state. Go figure, huh? So they really took it personally. They thought I was really trying to hammer them in particular. And of course, Juneau, Alaska is the state capital of Alaska. So that's another solid reason that I got thrown out of the Juneau paper, because there's a lot of employees there who were not happy with that comic strip. I ended up getting back in Fairbanks because there was a big letter writing campaign to the newspaper. It was fantastic. There's so many people wrote in wanting Tundra back after they found out, because they ran a story about why they threw me out. So many people responded saying put Tundra back in, that they did. They put my strip back in the paper. I'm still in there today, to this day, almost 30 years later, still there. And they did another story on that, which was really cool. They did a whole story about how the feedback was so immense that they had no choice but to put Tundra back in. And that was really cool. That was actually a really nice little bonus. And the editor of that newspaper was actually a Tundra fan. He was just following his boss's orders. Basically, he helped by writing the stories, and he was the one that wrote the stories. However, Juneau, I've been in it and out of it so many times, it just goes back and forth. It just goes back and forth. Every time an editor changes, I go in, and another editor changes, I go out. It's weird. But Salem, never. I'll probably never, ever get in that paper. I don't even know if that paper exists anymore. But that was the most brutal response I'd ever gotten from any comic shop. I've certainly had responses where people were angry, angrier even, but I've never had such a mass negative response about one of my strips. But you know what? Now it makes for a fun story. You know what they say, time plus tragedy equals comedy. So, it all worked out good. Here's this little offering of this comic strip. Looks pretty simple at the moment. But then, as always, when we have the magic of color and throwing a little word bubble, you'll see what direction my mind was going when I thought of this. Oh, so on behalf of myself, Crackers, Cheese's Butt, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it as always. And until next time, we'll see you down the road.